They say true genius is an anomaly. But what if it's an aberration? A beautiful, monstrous anomaly that grows, consumes, and reshapes reality itself, leaving behind only the echo of its own unblemished reign. This is not just a story of triumph, it is the chilling chronicle of a phenomenon, an entity whose very existence has begun to feel unnatural. Witness the unsettling spectacle of Lionel Messi claiming his 8th Ballon d'Or, not as a celebration, but as an almost ritualistic confirmation of a power that defies all human understanding. This latest golden orb was not merely a trophy bestowed upon a deserving athlete, it felt more like an offering, a tribute laid before a silent, inexorable force that has slowly, meticulously, begun to devour the very essence of footballing history. It is the grotesque beauty of watching a creature of impossible perfection strip the sport of its human fallibility, replacing it with an alien, predatory grace. The disgust isn't in what he does, but in what he represents, a relentless, unceasing march towards an unattainable ideal, a perfection so absolute it feels wrong, almost an insult to the inherent struggle of human endeavor. We are not just watching a player, we are witnessing a slow, beautiful consumption, and in its wake, only an emptiness where competition once thrived. This isn't merely a tale of a gifted footballer, it's an unfolding myth, etched in the fabric of reality, a legend so profound it warps the very concept of athletic achievement. His 8th Ballon d'Or wasn't a surprise, it was an inevitability, a cosmic alignment confirming a truth we've been too enraptured to truly comprehend. From the moment he stepped onto the global stage, whispers of something extraordinary followed him, a shadow of destiny that promised both brilliance and an unsettling dominance. His origin story, seemingly human, now feels like a carefully crafted prelude to an epoch-defining saga. Born with a growth hormone deficiency, he was not simply nurtured, but forged in a crucible of medical intervention. From the raw clay of youthful potential, he was sculpted not by chance, but by a relentless, almost surgical, daily ritual of self-infusion, a silent pact with modern science that bent his very physiology to its will. This wasn't just treatment, it was a deliberate evolution, a forced ascent beyond the natural limitations of his form, transforming him into something destined to transcend. This early, almost clinical intervention, set him apart, hinting at an engineered superiority, a foundational element of his unnatural ascent. Every injection, a deliberate step further from mere human potential, deeper into the realm of the preternatural. He learned to command the ball with an intuition that bordered on telepathy, an ethereal grace that made defenders look like statues rooted in time. The early days at Barcelona were a spectacle of unteachable genius, each touch an act of sorcery, each goal a spell cast upon the collective consciousness of millions. He wasn't just playing, he was performing an ancient ritual, weaving his destiny thread by golden thread, drawing gasps of awe that subtly masked a burgeoning, unsettling truth. The myth of the child prodigy grew, but beneath the surface, the anomaly was beginning to unfurl its wings, preparing for a consumption far grander than anyone could fathom. His ascent wasn't linear, it was a spiraling vortex, pulling all attention, all adoration, into its magnetic core. He didn't just win games, he owned them, body and soul, leaving opponents in a state of bewildered awe, a silent concession to an unmatched, perhaps unmatchable, power. His breathtaking goals were not simply feats of skill, they were calculated strikes from an apex predator, each one a precise, inevitable act of consumption. The ball, a mere extension of his will, danced to a rhythm only he could hear, bending reality to its whim. His visionary passes were not mere assists, they were prophetic pronouncements, unlocking defenses with a gaze that seemed to perceive futures unseen by lesser mortals, a silent, almost telepathic communion with the geometry of the pitch. Every feint, every dribble, a hypnotic sway designed to disorient, to paralyze, before the final, devastating blow. The climax of this unfolding narrative arrived with the World Cup victory in Qatar, a moment not just of triumph, but of finality, a grand, ritualistic act of absorption. It wasn't just a trophy, it was the ultimate sacrifice laid at his feet, the last bastion of doubt consumed, leaving nothing left to conquer, no mountain unscaled. The world watched, mesmerized, as he completed his terrestrial quest, solidifying his claim to eternal dominion over the beautiful game. His leadership, rarely expressed through booming shouts, was a gravitational pull, a silent, unyielding presence that elevated those around him, yet simultaneously reminded them of the vast, unbridgeable chasm between his genius and their own. He moved across the field with the silent, deadly efficiency of a creature perfectly adapted to its environment, every motion economized, every decision imbued with an almost divine certainty. Yet, even this sublime perfection has its roots in an obsessive, almost unsettling regimen. His hyperspecific, almost monastic diet and pre-game routines were not choices, but necessities, a constant, internal war against entropy, a relentless purification process to maintain that alien perfection. Even the very fuel that sustained this anomaly was meticulously curated, a Spartan regime that banished common indulgences, transforming the act of eating into a clinical process, a silent, internal alchemy to transmute base matter into pure, unadulterated performance. This wasn't merely discipline, it was a continuous act of self-refinement, a deliberate stripping away of all human frailty to ensure the continued, horrifyingly consistent output of his singular genius. Every meal, every training session, another quiet victory in the war against the ordinary, reinforcing the unsettling sensation that this wasn't just a human being, but a finely tuned, self-maintaining engine of footballing supremacy. His journey continued, a relentless, unceasing march across new territories. His tenure at PSG, though not always a seamless integration, merely showcased the phenomenon adapting, a predator exploring new hunting grounds, continuing its slow, inevitable assimilation of the sporting landscape. Then, the almost mystical pilgrimage to Inter Miami, a symbolic move that seemed to validate the very notion of his boundless influence, a new stage for his unending performance. The magic never fades, a phrase that should inspire, yet instead, evokes a subtle unease. It defies the natural decay of time, the relentless erosion that humbles all human legends. It is a static perfection in a dynamic world, an anomaly that refuses to succumb to the very laws that govern mortality. This refusal to wane, this eternal zenith, breeds a strange kind of revulsion. It feels wrong in its absolute certainty, a violation of the natural order where even the greatest must eventually cede to the passage of time. He inspires millions, yes, but is it inspiration, or a silent, terrifying blueprint for an unattainable ideal, a vision of excellence so profound that it renders all lesser efforts almost meaningless? The disgust stems from the realization that you are watching something fundamentally other, a being whose baseline is unreachable, whose casual brilliance makes dedicated human effort seem pathetic by comparison. This is the horror of the sublime, the terror of observing a perfection so complete it borders on the inhuman, leaving you to question your own place in a world increasingly dominated by the alien grace of his artistry. Off the pitch, the phenomenon receded into an almost spectral quietude, a man of few words whose public pronouncements were as rare and understated as celestial alignments, as if his true language was spoken only in the symphony of the stadium, reserving his human voice for whispers meant for the truly chosen. This almost ethereal quietness, a stark contrast to the hurricane of his on-field persona, only deepens the enigma, making him less a man and more a vessel for an overwhelming, undeniable force. He exists in two dimensions, the silent, almost invisible human, and the explosive, all-consuming deity of the pitch. This dichotomy, too, contributes to the unsettling nature of his legacy, suggesting a profound separation between the man and the myth, as if the latter has all but subsumed the former, leaving only a faint human echo. Every touch from Messi carried purpose, every moment carried history. This is not just a poetic observation, it is a heavy, almost pre-programmed destiny, a relentless unfolding of a script written in the stars. His award was not just a victory, it was a continuation, an endless, self-replicating process, a biological imperative of excellence that leaves no room for anything else to thrive in its immediate vicinity. It is the disgust of seeing the natural cycle of rise and fall utterly broken, rendered obsolete by an entity that simply is. It is the revulsion of encountering a perfection so complete, so self-sustaining, so devoid of human flaw, that it feels alien, predatory, and ultimately, a little bit horrifying. The unrelenting consistency, the ceaseless demand for more, the endless breaking of records and boundaries, it feels like a cosmic joke played upon every other aspiring athlete, a quiet, insidious mockery of their human limitations. We watch, fascinated and repulsed, as the machine of pure footballing genius, oiled with the dreams and hopes of millions, endlessly hums, endlessly devours. His talent, dedication, and humility are presented as coexisting, but perhaps this humility is not genuine meekness, but rather the silent, indifferent calm of something that knows its own undisputed, unassailable place at the top of the food chain. It is the quiet confidence of a creature utterly assured of its dominance, a serene acceptance of its own terrifying power. The disgust deepens as you realize that even this most endearing quality might just be another facet of its unshakable, terrifying control, another subtle extension of its all-consuming aura. This sustained, unblemished reign, unbroken by age or injury, unwavering in its brilliance, makes us question what kind of sacrifice, what kind of unnatural bargain, must have been struck to achieve such an unprecedented, almost immortal, presence. We are not just witnessing greatness, we are watching a fundamental shift in the very ecosystem of football, a singular being consuming all the light, leaving the rest to struggle in its ever-lengthening shadow. The legacy continues, not merely as a story, but as an ongoing, unsettling phenomenon, a relentless expansion that threatens to engulf the entire narrative of the sport itself. And as the perfect anomaly grows, consumes, and reshapes reality itself, we are left to wonder, what exactly is left of the game after the feast?